And we begin tonight with breaking news in Northeast Portland, where police are searching for a suspect they believe is responsible for a series of crashes.
Details still coming in from the scene, along with this video near Northeast Grand and Schuyler, just a block up from Broadway. That's where authorities say it appears someone in a vehicle hit multiple cars and then ran off. It is not clear if anyone was hurt and how many vehicles were involved total. We can tell you there appears to be a lot of debris at that scene, though Northeast Grand has just reopened through the area. Of course, we'll keep you updated as we learn more.
And developing tonight, most Amtrak riders set to ride the Cascades route between Oregon and Washington are now finding their train tickets are being swapped for bus rides indefinitely.
Well, that is because Amtrak pulled one of the most common passenger cars on the route from tracks nationwide over safety concerns. John Adams is live at Portland's Union Station with a look at the impact. John?
Absolutely, David and Christine. If you have a ticket on the Cascades route anytime soon, you're more likely to take a bus than a train going forward. On Wednesday, Amtrak announced major short-term changes nationwide after a routine inspection of its Horizon passenger cars revealed corrosion.
We then had some of those cars pulled in for more in-depth inspections and saw more corrosion than had been anticipated.
Amtrak has pulled the cars from service, which is having a large impact in the Pacific Northwest. Passengers heading north from Portland this afternoon were greeted with buses instead.
Yeah, we got text last night and the night before saying, hey, we were really excited to take a train. I haven't been on a train in like 40 years.
Amtrak says 70 Horizon cars across the country are affected. Its Cascades route, which runs between Eugene and Vancouver, BC, has 26 of the grounded cars, making it one of the most affected routes nationwide. Only one train in the fleet is safe to use right now. It will pass through Portland heading southbound in the morning and northbound in the afternoon.
Passengers who are on 503 and 508 are unaffected, and the remainder of the passengers are being accommodated on buses for the time being.
The grounding doesn't affect Amtrak's Coast Starlight route, which runs between Seattle and Los Angeles.
Amtrak apologizes for this inconvenience. We know it's less than ideal, but it was a necessary move to take in order to adhere to our safety policies.
For now, regular Cascades travelers will miss their usual ride.
I'd rather be on the train.
But understand, safety takes priority.
Well, that's better than having a problem.
Well, Amtrak originally said service will be interrupted through at least this weekend, but now they say there's no timetable for normal service to return. Amtrak's going to try to move cars around from different parts of the country and bring them here to the Pacific Northwest to replace those Horizon cars, and they'll let riders in the area know when normal service is returned. David and Christine, back to you.
It sounds like at least some riders understand this disruption, though. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, let's talk about the weather now, because what a difference 24 hours makes, right? A live look from Pioneer Courthouse Square this Thursday evening, where it is 55 degrees in the Rose City and wet on the bricks after a couple of record-breaking warm days.
Yeah, let's check in with Celine Stevens now. Celine, looks like the rain may be back for a little bit.
Definitely, more than a little bit. Okay, this is the weekend into next week, but right now it looks like we're actually getting some cloud breaks up there. The sun's coming out just a bit. We're sitting at 55 degrees. Those winds coming at the south at 15 miles per hour. But taking a look at our radar over the last couple of hours, that rainfall moved into the afternoon, and it looks like some areas may have still been dealing with some thunderstorm activity, mainly to the east and northeast of us. Portland, we've just been dealing with that rainfall, and again, it looks like things are clearing up at least for a couple of hours before that rain comes back later on tonight. And so taking a look at rainfall totals today, even though it did start really coming down there around 5 p.m., we've only seen less than 1/10 of an inch of rain here at home. Most of the map has been looking like that. It hasn't been significant rainfall, and it looks like Astoria just over 1/10 of an inch of rain. And so that's the good news. Although we do have a lot of wet days in our future, we're not looking at heavy rainfall that's going to be having much impacts. And so taking a look at our future cast, we're going to have that rain moving in, looks like into Friday. By the time we get to the evening hours, it'll be showers, and then it looks like we get into the weekend and it's a rainy weekend ahead. But I'll break all that down coming up a bit later. Back to you.
Back to a typical spring just like that. Thank you, Celine. In your headlines tonight, ODOT crews are repairing part of Highway 26 near the coast. It's a section known as the Bump that's given drivers a bit of a rough ride. 100 yards of asphalt are being removed across all 4 lanes at milepost 13. ODOT says it installed some drainage pipes there last year, and then the ground shifted, causing the trouble. Now, this isn't your typical pothole. Instead, water pressure underground is pushing the asphalt up 2 lanes will remain open to traffic at all times, though drivers can expect some delays.
Just hours ago, Gresham police detained a suspect in an early morning stabbing that left one person dead. It happened around 12:30 near Northeast Gleason Street, just off 202nd in the Rockwood neighborhood. When officers responded, they say they found 53-year-old Thomas Ferrer dead. Police detained William Huffman at the scene. They say they determined he stabbed Ferrer and tried to assault another person. Huffman has been charged with murder, attempted assault, and unlawful use of a weapon.
In North Portland, video sent in by a KGW viewer shows 2 cars on fire. This is just before 5 this morning on North Congress and Morgan Streets. Now, both cars were destroyed, though no one was hurt. According to a neighbor, both vehicles belong to people living in a home nearby. Portland Fire is now investigating.
The newest data from the Washington Employment Security Department shows the state's unemployment rate ticked up to 4.4% in February. The sectors that saw the biggest losses include construction, leisure, and hospitality, as well as education. The largest job gains were in transportation, retail, and wholesale trade. Both Oregon and Washington have a higher unemployment rate than the national average.
Yeah, speaking of Oregon, the employment rate here in February rose to 4.5%, the highest it has been since the summer of 2021. Job losses over the last year mainly coming from construction, retail, and manufacturing. Most growth concentrated in healthcare and social assistance.
Even though Oregon's unemployment rate has been trending upwards, it's still relatively low by historical standards. Over the past 5 decades, it's been uncommon for Oregon's unemployment rate to be at or below 4.5%.
Well, so far, recent federal job cuts have had little impact on the state's overall unemployment rate, though it appears some new cuts at the federal level are already on the way.
Yeah, that's because the Department of Health and Human Services plans to cut another 10,000 full-time jobs. The department oversees 13 agencies, including the CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institutes of Health. The cuts are expected to impact multiple agencies. Combined with other HHS cuts, the department's workforce will go from 82,000 full-time employees to around 62,000. The Oregon Nurses Association union released a statement condemning the cuts, saying, quote, "It's not streamlining, it's sabotage." Meantime, funding cuts announced last week by the U.S. Department of Agriculture means hundreds of millions of dollars in food deliveries nationwide have been stopped.
Let's bring in Alma McCarty live at the Oregon Food Bank in Northeast Portland. Alma, it sounds like the move has left a lot of local food banks essentially in limbo here.
Yes, David, Christine, that is the case. Lots in limbo at this time. I talked with several people today about what these cuts mean and how they're going to impact everyday people, from here at the Oregon Food Bank to at food pantries across the Portland area. And really the consensus is clear. They find these cuts to be pretty damaging and pretty troubling. Now, we stopped by St. Andrew Catholic Church. That's in Northeast Portland, where the food pantry is open 3 days a week, and volunteers tell us that the need is great. From more than 100 families stopping through pre-pandemic to now often 700 families picking up essentials. While they rely on donations from parishioners, this food pantry, like many others in our area, relies on the federal funding that is on the chopping block. Shannon Oliver, the director of operations at the Oregon Food Bank, explains 30 truckloads, or nearly 1.5 million pounds of food, fruits, frozen meat, nutrient-dense food set to be delivered here between April and June has been canceled.
That funding has been frozen, and it's unclear as to whether it will be resumed. So at this point, we kind of have to assume that it won't. That has been providing about 18% of our food that comes through this warehouse and goes out to all 21 regional food banks in Oregon and Southwest Washington.
Yeah, and the USDA at this point is defending this move, saying that the pandemic era programs that provided the assistance will be sunsetted, marking, they say, a return to long-term fiscally responsible initiatives. David, Christine, back to you.
Yeah, hearing from folks on the ground about how this domino effect is already impacting them. Thank you, Alma. Appreciate it. Hey, speaking of the need across our communities, there's still time to donate to this, the KGW Great Food Drive. We're quickly approaching our goal with enough donations to provide over 1 million meals. What a milestone there. Remember here, $10 can be stretched to 30 meals, and it's easy to give at kgw.com/food drive. Of course, we want to thank local Toyota dealers, Pacific Office Automation, Rivermark Community Credit Union, and Safeway for helping make this year's food drive a huge success. And of course, our thanks to all of you.
In a KGW investigation tonight, a West Lynn couple who thought they were about to help their son almost got roped into an elaborate scheme. Now law enforcement are warning of similar scams across the Portland area. A man posing as a Clackamas County Sheriff's Office lieutenant called Holly and Jeff Scheid. He told them their son had been arrested and asked the Scheids to pay for outpatient treatment and a monitoring device upon release. This wouldn't have been the first time their son was arrested, and for these parents looking for any opportunity to help their child, they kept an open mind.
It was taking advantage of somebody who's really in a position of vulnerability.
Next on the story at 6:30, the twist that convinced two skeptical parents to take the scammer seriously, nearly handing over thousands of dollars, and why law enforcement officials say this particular type of scheme is proof that scammers are getting more creative, finding new ways to trick people.